Discount code Chicago.
Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to be joined here in studio by Barry Saltzman. Barry is one of these people that I've been introduced to and whose name comes up all the time in conversations in the Chicago business scene, and that means he's certainly a great guest to have on this program, which, as I always say, is about business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get you on the air and for us to meet in person, but I'm glad we're doing it. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person.
Absolutely. So, Barry, let's talk. As you know, I like to get to know the person behind the microphone. Let's talk about you and your background, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you do.
Sure. So I've been in the professional world for 35 years. Started my career in New York. I
can tell.
Yeah, the accent's not going to go away. And I've always been in the technology sector. So in the first 20 years of my career, I worked for some great technology companies. And the one thing that I really seemed to enjoy the most was developing people and watching people do great jobs in their particular roles. So kind of sitting back, hiring these wonderful people and letting them excel in their careers.
So I'm going to jump right into it. Do you think that there are good ideas and good companies that are out there that fail because their people are not leveraged properly? And likewise, do you find that there are perhaps not the best ideas, but because of good people, they advance further than they would be able to otherwise?
The short answer is absolutely yes. The longer answer is if you're in the B2B services business, it is absolutely critical to have the right people in the right jobs servicing their customers. And I have seen over many years wonderful people working for the wrong companies not producing great results.
So let's talk about the services that you provide. You are a top-notch consultant working with many, many companies. I know of some of your success stories. So let's get down to it over here. Tell me a little bit about your company and the services that you can provide.
Sure. So my company is Saltzman Enterprise Group, which is basically me. And what I do every day when I wake up, Shalom, is my goal is to help companies and individuals reach their full potential. So I'm spending a lot of my time working with people, trying to help develop people so that they can be more effective and productive in the workplace. And as a result of that focus, I've been using some very sophisticated analytics tools around people. And these tools are helping us better understand people so we could put them in the right position to succeed in the marketplace.
So describe a company that can benefit from your services, and even better than describe it, tell us again about some of your success stories.
Sure. So any company that has a minimum of 2 people is a perfect target. By nature, people are dysfunctional. And if you put multiple people in an environment together, then you get dysfunction times some order of magnitude. So typically when I get brought into a client, it could be we're trying to hire the right person, we're trying to promote the right person into a position. I'm a sales manager, I'm struggling with managing my rep. I'm a business owner and my leadership team is not getting along. So there's a variety of symptoms that I get called in on, but in every single case, I perform an in-depth assessment so that we can understand the professional DNA, so to speak, of that individual.
So your clients obviously have taken a major step in identifying that there's a challenge there, that they've gotten their business to a certain point, but they will not be able to get it to the next level if they're not leveraging their people properly. So at what point in the business does that conversation, or shall I say revelation, usually take place?
Depends on the maturity of that particular business owner and also their self-insight. So if I'm in a conversation with a business owner, it's very typical for them to share with me some examples of how their organization could be significantly better if they had the right people or if their existing people were just working to better together as a team.
So let's talk about the process. So once you're engaged, as you mentioned, you go through that in-depth assessment, likely interviewing a lot of the stakeholders, a lot of the people involved. And what does that ongoing working relationship look like? How do you optimize that team?
Yeah, great question. So everything begins with the actual assessment. And the assessment, it's literally a 5-minute exam, so to speak, on the internet. A report will come out from the assessment. And typically the services that I will provide after the assessment is executive coaching, team building, could be a workshop, or many times I'm working with the folks that belong to the organization, helping them help their people.
Would you say that you split your time equally between the executive coaching and the workshops and the sort of coaching and the team training, or is there a ratio to it?
I would say 75% coaching for the executive and or the individual, and 25% would be workshops or the remediation for the team.
And are there any specific industries or companies that you think, typically have a need for what you do, and B, and perhaps it's the same answer, companies that you are actually working with?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, it's really based on people.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone that's in the B2B services business is ideal. My individual expertise is really focused on technology, digital marketing, and professional services. That's where I am the most comfortable, but I have done a lot of work in manufacturing and other types of industries other than the three that I'm best suited for.
We're chatting with Barry Saltzman of Saltzman Enterprises, which, as he mentioned, is him, and he and his entire company are here in studio with us. And we talked a little bit about your background earlier in the program and sort of what led you to this point, and now you are able to provide that expertise, having grown and having been involved in many fantastic and large companies. Now you are providing a very hands-on role, helping grow these companies. But Barry, there's one thing that I've learned about you is that you are very involved and that you have that great reputation. I know that you sit on many advisory boards. You're involved in community. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that both benefits your business and how it benefits the businesses that you work with. Tell us where you're involved.
Yeah, so many of my clients, I'm actively involved from an advisory perspective. I'm also on boards of larger companies. And really my philosophy at this point in my career is to give back as much as I can, try to help people. I've always been a believer if you do the right thing for folks, it'll come back to you in spades. And I've seen that time and time again. Just help people all the time, help them solve problems, listen to their needs. And many times the solution, it's not me. I might introduce someone to you because they might have a problem in an area that you're an expert. So just go out of your way to help people and sit back and enjoy what comes back at some point in the future.
That's great. So let's talk about the young entrepreneur that's out there. You mentioned that you mostly work with companies. Any company that has more than two people, you can work with them. But let's talk, bear with me over here. Let's talk about a company that has one person. And they are starting to contemplate, I don't want to underestimate the importance of a small business with just one person. You and I certainly can relate to many of those companies. We know how hard it is and how hard we work from the moment we wake up, often very early, and until the time we go to sleep, often very late at night, working. So for a micro business, for an entrepreneur, and they're contemplating making their first hire, what advice do you have for that entrepreneur that might be listening to our program this evening?
Yeah, so many of my coaching clients are solopreneurs, or whatever term we want to use for them, and the value of the assessment for them is they might be great at being an engineer, but they're really not comfortable at being a salesperson or a business development person. So the goal of the assessment is to really give them some self-insight to themselves. What are their motivations? What are their behaviors? What I found is people, particularly solopreneurs, once they better understand themselves, they're able to more effectively go out in the marketplace and also hire people that are maybe not like them.
Fascinating. And I know that over the past number of years, you've been in touch with me about identifying the key attributes of a great executive leader. There are several things that resonated quite a bit with me. Things like excellent decision-making skills. These are all things that excellent decision-making skills, being a never quits, never quitter, leveraging experience, business acumen, and so on. These are things that they don't teach you. These are things that come over time, and it doesn't mean that you're a jack of all trades. It doesn't mean that you know everything. It means that you know how to make good decisions. Let's talk for a moment about that, and we are quickly running out of time, and I want to make sure our listeners can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so to your comment, I think mindfulness and having empathy and EQ is really critical for any business leader. So for people to be very self-aware, to listen, to care to their people, knowing that we're all going to be different is absolutely critical. Above decision-making skills, communication skills, hard work, all the things that you have to do.
Great advice. Barry, I look forward to having you back on the program real soon. But for now, I want to make sure our listeners can get a hold of you do that consultation, learn more about Saltzman Enterprises. How can people get a hold of you?
Yep, best way to reach me is email barry@saltzmaneg.com, SALTZMANEG.com.
And just Google Barry Saltzman. You'll find his LinkedIn profile. We're going to be back on Get Down to Business after this headline and a quick break. You're listening to the show all about small business. Don't touch that dial, Chicago. We'll be returning in just a moment.
It's become